Welcome back to Sako and the Moon Horror Podcast, where every episode is another ticket to the wonderfully macabre. Today's guest has spent years peeling back the curtain for greater thrills, chills, and beautifully bizarre corners. A film critic, programmer, podcaster, producer, and lifelong fan of cult cinema, he explored everything from iconic monsters to forgotten nightmares, and he's never afraid to tell you what deserves another look. So grab your flashlight, keep one eye on the shadow, in welcoming Brian Haas.
Hey everybody, how's it going? Thanks for having me on the show. I really appreciate it. I'm a semi-retired podcaster right now, meaning that I'm just in between projects, and so
Sure.
it's like a muscle memory thing, right? Where you just you remember and you jump right back into it. And so it's been a few months for me to actually have recorded anything. So this is very exciting for me.
Oh, yay!
It's been so long since I did anything recorded, like 24 hours. Yeah, actually, this is about the time I signed off yesterday.
Were you talking your wrestling podcast yesterday?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, Sami Zayn. Oh, so happy.
New world champ.
Sami Zayn. Yeah. That's not what we're here to talk about today. So
that's a different show.
That's a different show.
That's a different show.
Yeah.
Because I have a million, apparently. Depending on who you ask, I have an increasing number of podcasts.
Well, I think I sort of pegged it at 5.
There are technically 5.
There
technically 5.
5 different shows.
5 different shows.
3 different channels, but 5 different shows.
Yeah.
I felt like I had a lot when I was doing 2, so I don't know what 5 is like. That's insane.
It's evenly spaced
and
out.
there's a 6th show kind of like
brewing in the background once it's all
just floating around waiting.
Yeah.
It's in development.
Yeah.
So for once, the moon is drinking. I'm drinking a cocktail.
Oh,
I heard most of that.
Do you guys not? I mean, so one of my favorite things to do is to podcast and to drink. So I'm drinking a Miller Lite Tall Boy right now. So
yeah,
and doing some podcasting. So this is good. This is good for me for sure.
You know, water is good.
Stay hydrated.
But
I
am a Kentucky boy, so one stays close.
Oh, there you go. Hey, perfect.
One stays close.
Yeah.
But that's the Kentucky staple. We do that.
Oh yeah, for sure.
We do that here.
Yeah. I got to do a distillery tour one of these times when I'm in Louisville. So
yeah,
me too. Couple of weeks.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
I was planning on trying to set up one for Imaginarium that is 2 weeks from this Friday.
Yeah.
I just didn't plan anything, so still got to figure out what that's like. But we've babbled about non-horror related stuff for like 3.5 minutes. So
that's true.
So now, while the theme song is not playing, how about you tell people who you are?
Sure. So my name is Brian Haas. I am a writer, producer, director, filmmaker, podcaster. I got my initial start in the business as it's very weird. Most people don't take this route, but I started as a film critic. And my specialty was always the horror movies because, I mean, I already liked them. Horror was one of my favorite things. Like discovering as a kid, 12, 13 years old, and you start finding like Evil Dead and, Reanimator and stuff like that. And you're like, oh my God, this is amazing. And so when I started to do film criticism, I was very often assigned the horror movies because the real film critics, I was like a freelance guy for the most part. And most of the big film critics don't like horror movies and have not for a long time.
Which is wild to me.
Yeah, I've never understood it. It was always weird to me. Like I would go to critic screenings, right? And there's like 25 or 30 of us at like fun critic screenings for like Final Destination or like Jason X or something like that, where it's just like these people are having a blast watching this movie, and I don't know how you can't get like caught up in that. You know, it seems weird to me when you don't.
Yeah.
And so, but hey, that was fine with me because, like, you know, you're literally giving me money to go see a movie before it comes out and give you my opinion on it, and I'm good about that. So, yeah, exactly. It's magic, exactly. And so through that, I have like it's all really unintended consequences. I never really anticipated getting more involved than just being a film critic, you know? As I would talk more and more to the producers and the writers and the directors, I found that a lot of these guys were very kindred spirits, right? They felt very much the same about horror movies, and the horror community as a whole is a very small community in terms of like filmmaking. Everybody knows everybody in the horror community. And so you start, you get a reputation. I think what happened was I got a reputation for taking horror movies seriously and, you know, asking like real questions to like horror creators, and then some cool people that, you know, in turn like ended up becoming pretty big names, like Benson and Moorhead is a good example of that. Like I was on board with them like from the beginning, and now they're like, you know, they were the ones who did the most recent Daredevil for Marvel, right? You know, so they're like doing big stuff. And so I just find that the people that are in horror tend to love it. You know, they're not there to make money. I mean, you can make money making horror movies, but like those days it's not like it used to be. And they're there because they love what they're doing and they genuinely like want to say something, you know. And so as I got in contact with more and more of these people, you know, it's like, hey, XYZ director, have you talked to XYZ producer? Because like they're kind of looking for something that you're doing right now. And so like I've become more and more involved in like the filmmaking process, and have really more like producer credits than anything else these days, because it's honestly the easiest part of filmmaking, in my opinion. You just find somebody that you think is cool and you give them money. Like it's not hard. It's not, you know, not going to make you a millionaire, but like if you want to be a horror producer, it's very, you know, you can do it. Like it's available.
And we will welcome your check. Yes, we will.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, we
Absolutely. will. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it's been a weird journey from like film critic to, you know, actually being involved in the industry and knowing a lot of the people that I grew up liking. You know, like I'm friends with a lot of the people that I ended up watching when I was in the 80s and 90s, you know, and have, you know, like professional relationships with some of them, and have interviewed a million of them, you know, like just about everybody that I would ever want to talk to from like my horror bucket list from a kid, I've talked to, you know, at one point or another for some project that they did. And so a lot of fun, you know, it's something that like I also love. And so something that I plan to continue to pursue going forward. And we'll see, you know, how crazy things get, but things are picking up a little bit more than I had ever expected. So I've already got like movies on streaming services and stuff like that. Like I thought that would never happen in a million years. And, you know, that's a thing. So like crazier things have happened, you know, just go out and do it. That's all you got to do. So
that's all we did. It was just a bunch of people just like, hey, can you write a movie? I'm like, yep. And it's like, all right, well, he bought a camera, so we're making a movie. I'm like, all right, cool.
Yeah.
And then there's my movie poster on the wall. So
and
can't get mad about that.
Gotten me involved in lots of different aspects, you know, to where like I've done sound design and production design and editing. Oh, editing, I do not. Like,
I leave that to somebody else.
I honestly am pretty good at editing, but I will scream at editing base. I will absolutely lose my temper at some file that's not doing what I want it to do. So
files be filing sometimes.
Sometimes, yeah.
So one thing you hadn't really talked about was your screenwriting. And I mentioned that because we talked about Imaginarium coming up in a couple of weeks. And you're up for an award.
I am up for an award for the 8th Seal. It's a project that, so it is a horror project, but it's like a horror comedy. I sent you a copy of it.
You did.
Dwan, you got a chance to read it. I can shoot one over to you, Sako, if you'd like to take a look.
Sure.
But the whole idea behind it is that the Grim Reaper, a kid challenges the Grim Reaper to a hot wings eating contest to save the life of his unborn brother, sister, whatever, and so we, I co-wrote it with somebody. I definitely do recommend writing with partners. It's something that I had never really considered. I've been writing for a million years and had been writing on my own for a million years. And somebody told me that when they collaborated with a different artist, it was like a totally different experience. And so I was like, okay, cool. I'll keep myself open to that. And so there was a contest. It's the New York Midnight Short Screenwriters Contest or something like that. But it's a pretty big one, and they just randomly assign you things, right? So we got assigned a person, a place, and a thing or something like that, and we had to do it all around those different concepts. And so we came up with this idea. And it wasn't really, neither of us really wrote comedy, to be honest. And it turned out super cute. And it honestly is when I'm giving somebody a calling card, to look at my work, that's what I shoot them. Because I have other stuff that I'm very, proud of that I don't think somebody's just going to sit down and read a 90 or 100 page screenplay or something like that,
right.
But if I send them, a 6-page short or whatever it is, then most people look at that and go, oh yeah, that's not so bad. And then gives you a good idea in terms of the potential of what we can do. And so we had never really intended to do anything with it except send it to that contest. But then we ended up placing in the contest, and it's a national contest. It's actually a international contest because, anybody can, they just open it up and then they give you the different things that you have to incorporate into your story, and then you have 7 days to write a screenplay. It's fun. It's a little bit anxiety inducing at times, but I really enjoy it. And the collaborative process was a lot of fun, and we ended up making something that people just react to it, and it's really nice because you don't. When you're an artist, you never know what's going to speak to somebody,
Right, yeah. And
when something that you did, grabs somebody unexpectedly, that's just such a, I feel like that's what we do it for, is to know that we took somebody on a journey. Yeah.
That emotional response
Yep.
is the bread and butter of
that is
art.
the high.
Yeah.
That is the high we're chasing.
Yeah. And so I do not write as many screenplays as I used to. I have transitioned a little bit more into writing novels and short stories and things like that. I got some advice from James Sabata's one. I don't know if you've had James on your podcast or not, but he's
not yet.
I would love to.
Yeah, you gotta have James on. He's great.
You know how James is a podcaster.
Yeah. There's a local guy also named Brian who he's actually made some like Hollywood movies, and he was telling me like screenplays are not where it's at. He transitioned from writing screenplays, even he'd already sold like 3 or 4, to writing novels, and he said the reason that I did that is because for a screenplay to come to life, a lot of different things have to happen that are a lot of times outside of your control, right? And so a lot of times screenplays, when you write them, they just sit in a drawer and don't really do anything. Whereas if you write a novel, then you can turn around and like you immediately have something that is yours, that belongs to you. And if you're lucky enough, you have somebody turn around and go, hey, would you want to make that in a movie? Which was, like sort of what you want to probably do in the first place for some of these guys. Certainly it would be for me. And so you get paid again to turn your screenplay or turn your novel into a screenplay. And so I was like, oh God, that's a really good, like I had never really considered that aspect of it before, and wanted the ability to have my writing be more widely seen, And so I was like, if I did books, then I can just put the books out, whenever. And I always joke whenever I do conventions is I don't have anything to sell, like almost everybody that's going to, these conventions that we do is trying to sell something, and I'm not trying to sell anything. And so it wouldn't be terrible to go, oh, and by the way, here's my book. If you liked what I said just now, you can buy it for $20 or whatever,
Or whatever.
Whatever you're charging for it. And it's also, it's also a good way to get people sort of buy into your stuff, like James does that a lot, where he just will give some of his smaller books away, just to be like, hey, if you like this, then come and I got 4 novels and a bunch of graphic novel type stuff. And so I was like, oh man, so yeah, I was like, that seems like a pretty reasonable thing more reasonable expectation to have in terms of getting my work in front of more people. So we'll see how it works out. I got my most recent book laid out. And then I have somebody asked me to be part of a anthology for a convention that we're doing. And I was like, oh yeah, cool. I've just got a million short story ideas. So,
Sure.
So that one's going to be probably put on the front burner, because nobody's waiting on my novel that I'm, writing, but the short story needs to be there for editing and, whatever I don't understand that part of it as much.
The anthology process.
Yeah, exactly. That I don't really understand as much, and I leave that to the person that's doing it. I'm like, oh, this guy's perfect choice for this, and I was just I'll be happy to.
That's cool.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Right on.
Yeah.
I have. We are 20 minutes into the show, but
We are.
I'm gonna try to pitch some questions at you.
Okay.
And maybe you can answer them.
Yeah.
What's the biggest misconception people have about horror as a genre?
I think the biggest misconception is that they're all just violent, right?
Oh, sure.
And there definitely are those movies that are, right, and I like those movies to varying degrees, depending on what they're doing and if they really have anything to say, if they're just doing gross stuff to be gross,
Yeah.
But I think a lot of people think they don't like horror because they don't like those movies, right? And so that's why when something like Midsommar, like breaks through, they're just like, well, that's like more of a psychological thriller. I've been hearing that a lot with Obsession too, right? Which is just incredible. If you haven't seen it,
I haven't seen that one yet.
Yeah,
there's like 3 or 4 major ones right now that I haven't seen yet.
It's my favorite movie of the year. I saw it at a film festival, I don't know, like back in March or April or something like that. And I'm talking to the AR person, the person that's there to like figure out if they've got a movie to sell or not. And I literally pulled her aside and I said, I've been to 1 million of these screenings, and every once in a while I walk into one and I'm like, that's a hit, right? And I told her, you guys have a very big hit on your hands if you market this right. And she's like, oh, well, maybe we'll see, and then it just became I was worried it was too subtle, right? That was my only, like, I'm just like, oh, wow, everything is just so, they just turn the dial a little bit every single time. So it doesn't, it's not like somebody like is, a good girl and then all of a sudden insane, right? It's like little tiny turning of the dial to where it gets to the point where it's like, oh, it's nearly unbearable by the end. And it's great because like, that is what I love about horror movies. That's why I keep going back to horror movies, because they tend to be the only genre that surprises me, right? Like there are lots of good dramas, don't get me wrong, right? Like I loved Hamnet last year, right? And I thought it was like a really interesting missive on like how different people like process grief, right? But there's been a million movies about parents losing children, right? But like when something comes along like Get Out or something like that, where you're just like, wow, that just like changes the dynamic of everything.
Yeah.
And so I think that's the biggest misconception, is that people are like, I don't like horror, and they don't like certain subsets of horror, and that's fine. Like that's not for everybody. I get that like the super violent stuff is going to be niche for sure. But like, I wish more people would just not blanketly say, I don't like this genre because of like the Jason movies, which are very fun. Honestly, they're silly and goofy, and as long as you don't take them seriously, then there's certainly, I've taken plenty of people they're just like, oh, I don't like slasher movies. I'm like, well, go see this Friday the 13th movie with me in a movie theater, that they're doing a revival for. And we go and they have the best time in the world. And they're like, wow, that was so fun. I'm like, yeah, exactly. Because it's an experience. And, like you get to see the entire audience, like reacting to these things, and so like it's different. So, but yeah, I think that a lot of people think they don't like horror, and they probably do. They just don't want
I've discovered that with my husband. He said, oh, I don't read it. I don't watch it. I don't know. Yeah. But he likes ghost stories.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And I'm like, oh, but that's a subgenre of horror, you see.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you can't compare all these. Horror is not a monolith. You can't compare all these horror movies together. You mentioned Friday the 13th and Get Out.
Mm-hmm.
And you can't put those two in, like, you can't compare
on
apples
the same
to apple. Like,
bill.
but they're both horror.
Right.
And, I might be, okay, maybe I don't like a lot of blood and slashers and this, that, and third. But I'll tell you, as a black dude who dates white women, Get Out is one of the scariest movies I've ever seen in my life.
Man,
because that is a real life horror. If you've never experienced going to, like in Kentucky, going to your white girlfriend's dad's house, and you don't exactly know how he feels about, he might like the black guy at work, but he may not like the black guy dating his daughter.
Yeah.
Like these are different things that, when you're in his actual house where he knows where the gun is.
Yep.
That's a true fear.
Yeah.
And I've lived that fear a couple times.
Yeah.
So Get Out is a lot scarier to me than any Jason or Freddy movie could possibly be. But that's an experience that is unique to me, like me and certain people like me. So in those kind of spaces, that movie speaks to me. There are movies like Hereditary that if you've lost a child, that is going to speak to you in a different way. If you've experienced this type of tragedy, being lost in the middle of somewhere, like a wrong turn or something, is going to speak to you a little bit more. And horror speaks to real life situations, and usually come from real life situations. So it's a lot more broad for people than certain folk will actually, assume. And I just watched Boys Don't Cry. That movie was brutal. And that's not a horror movie at all, but it was brutal as hell.
And I think there's also a very big misconception that horror can't be smart, and it's just such a naive. I mean, to me, you can speak allegorically. Get Out's a really great example, right? You can speak allegorically about the horrors of race relations in America, and I've seen it, ancillary. I've experienced my black friends getting hassled by cops before and shit like that, So I'm sorry, I didn't ask if I could swear. Sorry.
We don't give a shit. It's fine.
Oh yeah. Okay, cool. But that's something that can still speak to me, and that I can tell you right now that seeing that with an audience, and the cop car shows up and the whole audience just goes, no, and I'm just like, see, they get it, and you can't, if you just do that as a drama, straightforward drama with, lots of discrimination and just racial violence and stuff like that, it's people just turn it off immediately. But if you talk about it allegorically through this psychological thriller, then you can talk about these really big ideas. It's I think I'm hearing it less now. I think Get Out was it's such a a cultural point, right? It felt very much to me the way that Pulp Fiction did in the 90s, where I'm just oh, things are going to be different now, right? You can't just you can't just have that straightforward view of opinion anymore. You have to have something more to say, I feel like. And so those other things will still exist, and they do still come out, and there's still lots of fun ones, but I love that, horror can say those sorts of things, and you can have a huge hit like Obsession or The Back Room. I don't get The Back Rooms, right? Do not get The Back Rooms at all. It just, I watched this kid when he was 12, and I'm just cool. It's a vibe, right? I get it. It's.
No, I haven't seen it yet, so don't spoil nothing.
Oh no, I won't settle. No, I'm it's unsettling, but I'm but this isn't a movie, and I think people are but they don't care, they're going for that experience, and the liminal spaces for whatever reason really upset some people, and it's one of those things where I'm just I don't get it, but those guys could probably look at me on a ladder, scared to death, going, it's 8 feet in the air. What's the problem? And so so
you'll react to a movie like Fall differently.
Oh yeah, I couldn't. No, I didn't even go to Fall because I knew.
See what I mean? Exactly.
Yeah,
no,
right.
See, that's exactly what you're talking about. That's a reaction that impacts you. To me, I can watch Fall all day.
You're right. There was this movie called Man on Wire that I got assigned to go watch, right? And I didn't know anything about it, a lot of movies when I was a film critic, right? And it's about this guy. It's a real guy who in the 70s put a tightrope in between the two towers of the Twin Towers in New York City, and for 2 hours walked back and forth, and was doing all these elaborate tricks and stuff like that. And I mean, there was a reason, but that was the scariest movie I'd ever seen in my life. And I literally had to turn away most of the time because they're showing him on the wire, video footage, and I know the guy lives. They're talking to him, so it's not it's not oh shit, what happens? It's no, this guy's fine. But I was almost physically ill in that film screening. I was, and it got to the point where some of the other critics were watching me watching the movie instead of watching the movie. Because they were just what is he going to do next? And I'm just
I'd have done that.
I can't do exactly. Yeah, I mean, I get it. I do that sometimes myself, But yeah. Oh, just so yeah. They can be smart, and you can like them even if you think you don't like horror. So there's some exceptions for you. Very long-winded, but.
What horror trend do you secretly hope dies forever, and when to come back?
A trend that I would like to die forever. I really dislike the trope of having to make a very poor decision to get the movie started, right? Takes me out of the movie every single time, right? There's this guy, everybody loves him. He made a movie called Caveat. He made a movie called Oddity, and now he has another movie called Hokum, right? And so I get it. They're just dripping with like, it's beautiful to look at, right? The cinematography is incredible, but like, I haven't seen Hokum yet, but the first two movies that I described, the main character has to make a very ill-advised like decision that just seems like nonsensical almost, and you're just like
Caveat. That basically sums up Caveat's plot.
Yeah, right, exactly. Yeah. And so like I like that it's got like a lot of style, and I really feel like this guy has a future as like a cinematographer for like a good director, but he's got too many hits at this point. All his movies are doing well, so there's clearly an audience for it, which, hey, that's cool, right? I love that. I love that anything that helps out horror, like I said, I'm not a Backrooms fan, but like I'm really happy that it made $85 million or whatever the first weekend.
It's killing it.
Yeah, because like
Backrooms is killing it.
Yeah, exactly. And so like that just makes it really nice for other creators out there. Like opens up the wallets a little bit more. And so, yeah, like I wish that would go away. I just don't get it. It's just like it immediately like just takes me immediately out of the movie, and I start like picking it apart at that point, which is like that's the kiss of death for me. As soon as I start picking it apart, I'm just like, okay, well, like,
once you're in editing brain,
right? Yeah. What would I have done different? How could I make this better? Those sorts of things, where you're just like, and so. Something that I wish would come back, and I do see it a little bit, but I wish it would be, I wish I would see it more, right? So with the prevalence of streaming, there's not really any pressure for filmmakers to make a film of any certain length, right? And I think there are a lot of filmmakers that would do well to stick to certain time frames, right? Like, I honestly believe that no movie should be over 90 minutes unless you earn it, right? If you can make a 90-minute movie and it can be dumb and, terrible, and I'll watch it and I'll just go, well, that wasn't very great, but like, I won't feel cheated or, robbed or anything like that. But the second you start making a movie that's an hour and 50 minutes and like nothing happens, like just, man, it kills me.
Thank you.
And so I really wish that editors would be more listened to, because like, to me, the director is the person who makes the first half of the film, and then the editor is the person that makes the second half of the film, right? And you need to work strong collaboratively together. And this is the reason why somebody like Quentin Tarantino like went completely off the rails, because the woman that was his editor that won a bunch of Oscars, she died very tragically, and it was very sad. But like, he doesn't trust anybody anymore. And who's going to tell Quentin Tarantino this shit needs to be 15 minutes less, dude? Like, Tarantino ain't going to listen to you. Why do I need to make this 15 minutes less? It's fine, man. It could be 4.5 hours long. Nobody gives a shit. It's just like,
and And there are Tarantino fans who look for that in a
Yeah.
Tarantino movie.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm a Tarantino fan.
Yeah.
And I look for the unnecessary dialogue that isn't a setup for something later. It's just two people who are having an off conversation. That's
Yep.
a very Tarantino thing to put in the movie. I look for that. I love it.
Yep. Scorsese does the same thing a lot.
Yeah.
And, you know, hey, if you can get away with it, right? I'm not saying that every time he does it, it's bad, but like the Hateful Eight doesn't hit the same way that like Kill Bill did. You know,
Kill Bill Volume 2 didn't hit the same way Kill Bill Volume 1 did.
I mean, that's fair. So, but yeah, I wish people would invest more in editing and like, you know, make it as tight as possible. One of the things that I've really appreciated about James Sabata helping me with projects is when I send it to him, he'll be like, do you need this line? Do you need that line? What does this do? How does this push the story forward? And it's made me edit in my head before I'm even thinking about editing, you know, like after the fact. And so the fact that I have like the game plan already in my mind, and then you can always add more later. You know, it's not like it's forever. Like this is, you know, you cut this and you can't ever do it again. If you want to add it back, you can. But like, I think that more people would be, I think like more directors would be like, you know, like buzzy directors if they had better editors and didn't have to just do it themselves sometimes.
Delegate.
Yeah. I'm not, look, I can do sound, right? You don't want me to do the sound on your movie though. You know, like we talked about sound before we even like started the podcast today about how like, if the sound is bad, that's a disqualifier, you know? And so I will do the sound if you have no other option and I'm the only option. I'll do the sound on your film, but I'm not going to like let me do the cinematography instead and find somebody else to do the sound. I'm sure
I'll hold the pole. Better. That's about as best I got for you on sound.
Yeah,
I can do this for about 10 minutes. That's what you got. You have 10 minutes of this.
Yep.
Yeah. If you had unlimited money to remake one terrible horror movie, not because it's famous, but because it deserved better, which film gets your vote?
Ooh. A movie that I have unlimited money to remake, but it was bad originally, and it's not like good bad, it's just bad.
I'm trying to figure out what my answer would be.
It could be good bad. It could be good bad.
Oh, it could be good bad?
It could be good bad.
Oh man. That's a tough question.
That narrows it down, doesn't it?
Yeah. I mean, like there's plenty of good bad ones that I think would be an awful lot of fun to remake. Like they just did this Bob Odenkirk, I don't know if you saw this or not, but Bob Odenkirk did a remake of The Room, right? Did it in 12 hours, and he plays the Tommy Wiseau character, right? And
I haven't seen either one.
Oh, well, you're missing out, dude. It's amazing.
I've been told I need to see The Room.
But I want to see Bob Odenkirk doing it.
It's incredible. I've seen the trailer, and it's incredible, right? I'm just like, wow, I can't believe like just what replacing that one guy does for this movie. And so I wonder what a movie like Troll 2, you know, would be like with something like that, where now, you know, you've got like unlimited money, so you can make like the goblins as awesome as you want. You know, like you can bring Stan Winston in or Robert Kirkman or, you know, whoever, right? You know, the best of the best to come, you know, be the creature wrangler. And then you get like somebody, I'm trying to think of who would be like a good actor for, he'd have to be sort of like late 50s, early 60s, and like be somebody that everybody like respects for his acting ability to play the part of the dad, right? And then there's a million kids that are good at like, so I don't know, but like just bring it in, and like Meryl Streep, plays the Goblin Queen, like just, oh man, I think that would be incredible. I would watch that all day long.
Yeah,
And
that sounds
probably
like a
twice on
blast.
Sunday. You know what? I have another one that I think would be a great one. So when I was a film programmer, we had a lot of movies that we played for audiences that were a lot of fun. But there's this movie called Pieces from 80 or 81 or something like that. And the tagline is, "You don't have to go to Texas for a chainsaw massacre." And it's like this Boston college that this guy is like running loose on, and he's trying to put together like the perfect jigsaw girl, and he's like taking the arm from that one and the leg from that one, and all this stuff. And it's terrible, right? Like it's legitimately a bad movie, and like, but it is like one of those incredibly fun bad movies where, like, especially if you watch it with an audience. That's the whole reason I programmed it, is like I'd watched it with like, a room of like 5 or 6 people before, and like they were like losing their minds, and I'm just like, well, what would this be like with like 100 people? And it was incredible. And like the best part was that a lot of them had not seen it, so they didn't know what they were in for. And so like I got to do the thing where I sit back and watch like what other people do. And like I said, it's a terrible piece of shit, and it doesn't, like the story makes no sense. But like, yeah, like I could just drop a shit ton of money on that and like make just a Chainsaw Massacre movie. Oh man. Like
so
I made a short. Yeah, I made a short once upon a time, and I was super ambitious about what I wanted to do. And one of the things I did was run a chainsaw inside of a house, and it worked. I would not recommend it. And we almost set off the fire sprinklers inside of the house, so it was bad. But we did it, and like it looked cool. You didn't know any of that shit was going on, so just to be able to make like a stupid chainsaw movie, oh, that would be great.
Yeah. Let's see. Imagine horror disappears tomorrow. No books, no films, no games. What part of humanity disappears with it?
Well, I'm going to be gone. So sorry, everybody. Like if they're taking the horror, they're taking me with it, I think. So, so I have a weird answer for this, and people are going to think that they're not good. People that don't understand horror are going to not understand why I'm saying this, but the people that do understand horror are going to completely understand it. And I think that largely it's going to remove the empathy from your community, right? Because because like the whole point of horror is to elicit a response, right? To me, horror and humor are two sides of the same coin, right? One is make you laugh, one is make you scream. How you get there is, and like if you look at like something like Jackass, you can do both at the same time, and so I think that the reason that a lot of people watch horror movies, especially the more extreme horror movies, is they want a safe environment where they can experience something really nasty and gnarly and go through it with like those characters, but be safe on their couch or in a theater seat or whatever at the same time. And so people are going to go, wow, it's the people that are super empathetic that are going to like the super gory movies. And yeah, we actually are. So I can tell you right now, the horror community is the biggest bunch of teddy bears you'll ever meet in your life. We're the nicest people. We're all super like, I think we're all super like approachable and like just people. So like when we find like I did it this year, right? Like this person who had never done a convention before. I'm like, no, you're perfect for this. You're doing convention with me this year. And they're like, "Are you sure?" Yeah, I don't think that I have anything. I'm like, "No, don't worry about it. Like, I'll do the heavy lifting, and you can just like, be on board with it or whatever."
Yeah.
And yeah, she was a natural. I knew she was. Like the second I met her at a Halloween party, and I'm like, "You should be doing conventions with me." Like, you just tell. Like, you can talk to somebody for 5 minutes and know. And so sometimes it takes a little, like gentle encouragement or whatever. But like, you can tell usually the people that are our people. It's easy for us to do, sort of around that.
So, after consuming so much horror over the years, what still genuinely unsettles you?
I would say loss of control is one that's a big one for me. I'm very analytical, and I like to look at all the angles, and I am very good at figuring out what needs to be done to achieve like X, Y, Z, right? And the movies where like something happens to your mind or your body betrays you or something like that, that still gets me, because like I feel like those are very reasonable things that could potentially happen to like a human being. Like my grandfather was he lived for a very long time with Alzheimer's, right? And so I got to see a very long spectrum of how how it starts out and how it gets towards the end and stuff like that. And like he never got to the point where he couldn't like function anymore, but like he was also, it was starting to get really sad, and that's one where I'm just like, I don't know that I could do this, like watching it from the outside, looking in and going, man, that's like. And so loss of control is a big one. I think that's the reason why Obsession has been the hit that it has been, because it's that's literally what the movie is about, is like loss of control, and taking somebody's choice away, and so I think that's something that resonates certainly with girls for sure. Like I can't even tell you like how much the women's horror resonates with me, because it's something that I don't get to experience, right? Like a lot of guys don't know that the scariest place in the entire world for a woman is a parking lot, right? Like, and like that's something that I would never even think of in a million years, And like I was telling somebody, I was at like the gas station, and my keys were in the car and my phone was in the car, and I wasn't even paying attention to anything that was going on around me. And she's like, I have to know like everything that's going on all the time around me, because you don't know when or where, somebody just might, because the opportunity exists, they might, jump upon it and take advantage of that. And so that's one that I really appreciate, the really strong voices that are coming out of women's horror right now, because like I think that they can show us those things, certainly to men, like we need to be smarter. Like me saying it is not enough, right? Me understanding it is not enough,
Right.
And so like I appreciate them to no end. And also like the LGBTQ creators as well, because like again, it's a perspective that I'm never gonna know. I'm a straight white guy, so like the world was made for me, and so like I'm not gonna understand what it's like to be ostracized just because of the way that I am. And so like I think that them getting a real opportunity to show that is something that is very, very good. I think that horror's always been sort of like on the cutting edge of that sort of stuff and pushing those sorts of things. And I wish we were further along in some of those avenues. But I like the fact that we can talk about it with horror and have it be a little more digestible, and a little more palatable, not feel like you're taking your medicine while you're doing it.
This feels like this kind of goes along with your answer about empathy. If we lost horror, we'd lose empathy.
Yeah.
One of the things that, like you were talking about, is watching a horror movie that depicts a situation you yourself would never find yourself in.
Yep.
And there are situations that I would never find myself in.
Mm-hmm.
And you get to look at them and just like, all right, I see it. I get it now. I see how this could play out in the worst case scenario. Or if there's a concept that may impact me, I can show them a particular movie.
Yep.
And it's like this. And some people, sometimes that's what it takes for someone to be like, oh.
Exactly. Yep.
Has that ever happened? It's like, yeah.
Yeah. Turn the light bulb on. Yep.
It may not be it may have never happened to me. Maybe it happened to my father. Maybe it happened to my uncle. Maybe it happened to a kid I grew up with, you know. But when you can see yourself in it, then that means you can be seen, and sometimes you just got to show that movie to someone. I'm just doing some heavy lifting in the background of one of your days.
Yeah.
Somebody's busy.
Oh yeah, no. My roommate just got home. She's my co-writer on the nominated short film. So. Yeah,
which I did read, and is a fantastic short.
Thank you.
It's one of those things where it's just like, all right, well, there goes my award. All right, cool. It's fine.
Well, I don't know about that, but you know,
it's pretty good.
I do really like that quite a bit. It's one of my really proud moments, I feel like.
But back to the statement that you've made, I think that does really highlight putting both of those points together. Shows the importance of horror, because it's very little you can do in other genres quite like you can do the messages that others are kind of refusing to hear.
Yep.
Those messages are right in front of you in all of horror.
Yep.
Sometimes they're fun, sometimes they're just ridiculous. Velocipaster exists for people like me.
Me too.
But at the same time, you know, Woman of the Hour is a fun one. You mentioned Get Out, and movies like that take a point and just kind of like wrap the scary in a brightly lit package, and you can't help but notice. It teaches us empathy when watching it. So I think that's one of the reasons why I think we are all teddy bears. Because we are the empathetic. We get to see the struggles from others, whether it's a book that this person wrote that is their experience and that I can read it and learn it.
Yep.
Which we use this to, because that's what Sako the Moon does. It encourages other people to write and do their things.
Yeah.
We encourage you to, when you write your stuff, whether it's a novel or a short story or a short film, put a little of yourself in there.
Yep.
Share a little bit of yourself so that, you know, others
it's more genuine.
It
comes through. Like every time that I am vulnerable in the making of my art, it always comes through. I have a movie, I have a screenplay that it's so weird. I have this screenplay. It's about a punk band who they're on the cusp of getting their first big break. Right, they're going to go on tour with the biggest band, right? That's going to basically put all of their music in front of the people that they need to see it for them to have success. And their lead singer dies right before the tour, right? So the whole idea behind the movie is that he's dead the whole time, right? Johnny Wrong is his name. It's Johnny Wrong's Last Song is the name of the screenplay. And like I wrote it because of like some stuff that was going on in my life at that time, and I had this idea for a long time about that, and I had like this really close personal friend die, right? And I'm just like, oh my God, I just have to get this. Like it was just killing me, and I was just like, I have to get some of this out, right? And so I had already been. I like sort of outlined the idea of the screenplay, And I just knew immediately, I'm like, this is the one I need to work on. And so I really put a lot of that stuff into that screenplay, to just kind of, because when you get rid of it, I think when you write it, it gets rid of it, or at least makes it less heavy to carry,
Yeah.
And so I started sending it out, right? Because like I'm known for writing like either horror humor, right? Like I either write like horror movies that are really dark or like really stupid comedies. And I started sending it out to people, and they were blown away. And they're like, I'm getting back like reviews like I was crying by the end of this and stuff. And I'm like, oh, okay, excellent. Like that's exactly what I want, And if I were to, at some point, I will make a movie, and at some point, that will be one of the movies that I make. And so that's one of those things where I have to sort of, I'm getting the process of getting the people together that I need to. So that's the only other real way. If you're going to be a screenwriter and you want your stuff to get seen, you better be a director too. So like, read up on like what a director does and what a director of photography does and stuff like that. But like, that's one that I think I could make relatively cheaply. And like, I wasn't expecting that to really resonate with people, but like that every single time I send that to somebody, they're just like, wow, that is really good. And I'm like, yeah, I mean, it was heart-wrenching, like sort of getting it all out. But like, I think a lot of that sort of comes through when you're reading it. And so like, to get people to feel like that is like, it's incredible, like I just don't, yeah, like
it's the goal.
Yeah. That's the goal. And so, yeah, like, it's not that screenwriting and filmmaking is stopped. It's just like, that's still something that I want to do at some point, or be more directly involved instead of just like, doing like day playing and, producing stuff for other people and stuff. I love that stuff too, don't get me wrong. But there's something different about making your own stuff, especially on a project like that where it takes a lot of people for it to be successful, and so, someday maybe we'll see. But yeah, like never say never, right? You just never know what's gonna do it, and I've talked to people too, and they were just like, pursue those opportunities and see, because like you never know what's going to be the one that accidentally like, yeah. So,
gotta write them.
Yep. Absolutely.
Well put. Before we let you escape into the night, where can listeners find your podcast appearances, upcoming projects, and anything you're working on?
Yeah, so I have I had a podcast called BS Movies that we sunsetted this year. It was fine. It was time to, like, it just gets to like a natural progression where it's like more work than fun, and so like I told my partner, I was like, when it gets more work than fun, we'll just, we'll like wrap it up, and, we can still be friends and stuff, like, and still do things together, but like, we just won't do that. So, so it's called BS Movies. It's very easy to find anywhere that you get podcasts. You can find that. I'm on Facebook and Blue Sky and Letterboxd. Letterboxd is probably the most fun place to follow me, because that's where I I list all the movies that I watch, and I review all the movies that I watch. I know you guys have probably seen my little like review blurbs and stuff like that. So that, just gives you sort of like a real quick snapshot of like, because I write because I love it, right? Like nobody's paying me to do the little like, capsule reviews that I do, but like it's something I feel like if you don't use your skills, they become dull, right? And so I want my skills to remain sharp. And so I continue to do things like write and edit and things like that, even though it's not like priority like it used to be, because like I don't want, if I did, somehow manage to get a little bit of money together and I was able to make a movie, I don't want to have like it be a 2 or 3 year process of like ramping up when, like a lot of times, especially with movies, like you need to strike as soon as the iron is hot, because if you don't, it might cool off and it might never get hot again. And like, I don't think people understand what a miracle it is that any movie gets made, even bad ones, and that really changed my perspectives. Like film criticism, I had my ideas about what the way things should be. And then as I started to talk to the people that were behind the creation process and understand how even with the best of intentions, bad things happen, and bad movie. Nobody sets out to make a bad movie. Maybe Tommy Wiseau, but like nobody else sets out to make a bad movie. And you just sort of understand how there's a lot of different places where things could go wrong. And so like anytime that anybody completes any movie whatsoever, I tell them that that's a miracle. And now you need the second miracle of trying to get distribution, which is also a miracle. So I can tell you, it has not been easy over the course of the years, but it happens. I have movies streaming right now that you can watch right this second. So people, if you want to watch, I have Psycho Ape 2, The Wrath of Kong, that is streaming on Night Flight right now. I have Only Fangs, which is streaming on Bloodstream TV right now, which is a free service, if I'm not mistaken. And Karis Hell is Karis Hell 3, is streaming on the filmmaker himself has his own like little Patreon that he does like his own streaming service through for all of his movies. It's really great. Silver Screen Studios, I think is the name of it. So you guys can all go out and watch all of those. Most of them are free. So I'm not even asking you to invest any money or anything. Not that I'm making any money off of any of these. Like probably, like I said, Letterboxd is probably the most fun place to follow me. It's Brian Haas PHX. So.
Yes, indeed. Okay. Brian, thank you so much for joining us and sharing your passion for horror and the stories that continue to shape this incredible genre. It's been a pleasure diving into what scares us, what inspires us, and why horror continues to resonate with audiences around the world. And thank you all for listening as we explore the strange, the dark, the creatively terrifying. Until next time, stay bold, stir fear, and keep the shadows near.
Thanks for having me on, guys. I really appreciate it.
Oh, yeah. It helps us actually end.
Yeah, you gotta actually end.